Something I find myself doing very commonly when I'm building React applications is conditionally applying CSS classes based on some data, either some state or some prop that my component has been passed. There are many different ways we can do this. Everyone has their preferences. This is one such way I've seen here where you create an array with the two classes you might always want, and then if some conditional is true, we push onto the array another class. And then when we render those classes all joined together with an empty space. That works, but it can get a bit messy as your application grows or as the conditionals get a bit more complex. The classnames package on npm is a really nice solution to this problem. It enables us to very clearly define which classes are conditional and what they are conditionally based on. Let's have a look at how we can take the code we have here and use the classnames package instead to tidy it up. So on the right here, you see I have my example hello world, and you can see here that the div has three classes on it: wrapper, class 1, and conditional class. What we're going to do is rewrite this to use class names and make sure the functionality is still exactly the same. So I'm going to firstly redeclare the wrapper class as constant. I'm going to do this and then delete the one above it. So we can say const wrapper classes. And we're going to call the class names function, which I've imported from the package. So we'll do class names. And you can see you're getting a type hint there. Class names takes basically any argument you want and it will figure out the right thing to do. If you give it a string, it will just assume that you always want that class to be applied. You can give it an array of strings and it will assume all of them should be applied. But crucially, you can also give it an object where the keys in the object will be the class name and the value is the condition that should hold true for that class name to be applied. So in our case, we always want to have two classes. We always want wrapper and we always want class-1. But now we have some classes that we want to apply conditionally. So in this case, we can pass in an object. So I'm passing in wrapper and class 1. As you see, I've typoed there, apologies, class 1. And then we're going to pass in an object. So here we can say the name of the class that we want to apply is conditional class. And the value here is the condition that should be true. And in our case, we're basing this off some prop. So we'll say some prop. And if you wanted to be extra clear, you might want to say equals true. So now in our actual render function, we don't need this wrapper classes.join anymore. We can just pass wrapper classes because class names will figure out what you've called it with and will output a string of all the classes that should be applied for you. So you don't have to worry about taking the data that was returned from class names and massaging it into a string of classes. Class names does that all for us. So now let me get rid of this old wrapper classes code and hit save. And you'll see on the right hand side that it's still exactly the same. Nothing has changed. So we've managed to keep the same functionality. And we can test this by swapping some prop from true to false and hitting save. And you see now over here on the right hand side, the conditional class isn't being applied. So if you find yourself wanting to conditionally apply classes based on props or state or any other values, I really recommend the class names package.